Quite a week for Joe Biden. I'd offer my sympathies, but that would be to presume that he actually knew what day of the week it was and what planet he was on. His handlers just keep botching the script. Now, in all fairness to his handlers, it's not like he has the easiest time in the world reading the script. But as much as he's stuck to the script, his approval ratings are in the shitter. His policies and public relations are in an absolute fucking tailspin. And his party is looking at one of the most devastating destructions ever handed to a political party coming up here in the midterms. Now, you can make of that what you will, but I think the biggest anchor is, well, described by the graphic you're looking at now. See, the two biggest areas of concern for voters in the upcoming midterms, and this is Democrat and Republican voters alike, are inflation and gas prices. And his handlers just keep giving him the same script. Only now we've expanded it a little bit. You see, blaming this guy just doesn't work anymore. We'll come back to him in a minute. But now it's price gouging by those greedy oil companies, despite the fact that their year-over-year profit margin remains at 4.9%, as opposed to, say, 39% for a big tech firm like, say, Microsoft. And then this week, not to be outdone, he outdone himself, as it were, blaming gas station owners for charging too much for gas, that it didn't reflect the price that they were actually paying. Now, again, if it were Biden, I would just chalk it up to him being out of touch, as he is with most of the mainstream reality construct. But his handlers know better, and they keep handing him the same script. A big part of that same script does come back to blaming this man. That's right. We're going to blame him for inflation. We're going to blame him for gas prices. We're going to blame him for food prices. We're going to blame him for everything short of the global pandemic. And if they could hang that on him, they certainly would. The only problem with that is this week, Biden's Fed chairman even broke from the script and said, no, inflation and gas prices were completely out of hand long before this guy decided to invade the country run by this coked out clown shoe. Now, in spite of all the economic destruction going on our side of the world, we seem to have been able to find 55 billion, that's billion with a B, to keep sending to this guy. And the reports coming out of Ukraine don't look good. The propaganda is failing. The astronomical body counts that they were assigning to dead Russians inside Ukraine, and the fact that the brave Ukrainians led by this coked out clown shoe were standing bold, it's all falling apart because the real figures are going to come through. As always, the truth will out. Good thing for Biden, we can count on his 100% cognitive function, as evidenced by this little flashcard here. Yeah, they caught this one and they weren't supposed to. Now, the media has given it precious little notice, but the internet is abuzz with it. Yeah, look closely, guys. It is a step-by-step instruction sheet on what should be a basic routine fucking news conference. This man is so incapable of managing even the most basic public relations that he's got to have step-by-step outlines for every single one of these stage-managed theatrical pieces that are passing for news conferences. It would be scary if it weren't so goddamn hilarious, and it would be more hilarious if it weren't so goddamn scary. I can't figure out which side of the fence I fall on. I will say this for Biden. He did get his gun control bill passed. That's right. He managed to not get any of the big ones as predicted. None of the big stuff passed, but he did manage to get through a gun control bill through the House and the Senate through the help of 10 Republican turncoats that passed it for whatever goddamn reason. Leave it to the Republican Party to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. However, he had a little setback. That's right. The very same week he was putting his signature to that bill, well, the Supreme Court handed down a decision based on a New York law, one of the most restrictive in the country with regard to concealed carry. and the issuing of permits, saying that, in fact, that overwhelming restriction was, in fact, unconstitutional. Right now, we seem to be in a race between the politics of the legislative and executive branches and the constitutional observations of the judicial branch. This is exactly how the dance was supposed to go. This is how the founding fathers wanted it. Checks and balances, overlapping powers, providing checks on each of the three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. But that's what came out of the Supreme Court this week. I mean, there was something else. Something else came out of the Supreme Court this week. There was, I know I had, hang on, let me check my notes. Some other, I don't know. Apparently, I don't know. I'm told it was a big thing. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Roe versus Wade. That's right. 50 years of judicial overreach got overturned, and the hype is just too much. We are being handed, predictably, the fear factor from both sides about what this means going forward. We actually have some news commentators that are suggesting with a straight face that a Supreme Court being helmed by Clarence Thomas is now going to overrule interracial marriage. I'll wait for that to sink in. In any case, it was bad law from the start. Even their patron saint, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, said so. It was bad law. It was doomed to be overturned. And this week, it happened. Now, to their credit, and I have to give credit where credit is due, the pro-choice crowd, the baby shredder crowd, they didn't set things on fire. They didn't riot. So far, they haven't murdered anyone in broad daylight. And I would be willing to sing the praises of that were it not for the fact that as soon as the precursor to the decision, authored by Alito, leaked, the attacks began. I mean, just because we're not seeing televised riots, let's not overlook the fact that over 20 crisis pregnancy centers helmed by pro-life organizations have been attacked, up to and including fire bombings. And there was an outright attempt on the life of a Supreme Court justice this week. But in any case, Roe versus Wade is now thrown on the dust pile of history, and it all goes back to the states. Again, the dance, executive, legislative, judicial, going into the midterms, things are going to get even more entertaining. And it keeps coming back to the individual states, the loose confederation of which grows looser and looser with every passing decision, with every passing overreach, with every passing fear factor, with every passing fraud that comes down on the shoulders of the American people. Man, if it wasn't for my distance from the conspiracy crowd, I'd almost have to say it's like somebody planned it that way. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and nobody else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors. And I cannot stress this enough. Certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They're guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to choke you with a big, fat dose of swollen, throbbing, turgid, thorny truth cock. Could be the caffeine talking, boys and girls. In any case, welcome back. It is time once again for the Sunday sermon. Been an interesting week, boys and girls, and we're going to go into all of that good stuff, plus a few extras. It's going to be fun. Everybody in for the drum roll. Our bumper music, as always, from a band called Red Desert. Little stoner doom band from the smoldering embers of the once great city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the track is Older No Wiser, because every week I get a little bit older, and every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. This might not be one of those weeks. As usual, everything's polarized. Going to do a quick roll call, see who's on board. Brother Joel, of course, first guy out of the starting gate, as always. Brother James Pearson, good to see you, my friend. See you're out there doing something in the great Lone Star State of Texas. Guys, if you were in the state of Texas, if you were LEO, go to the LEO classes. If you're not LEO, look for one of the non-LEO classes, but train that Tony Blauer Spear System shit and go see my bro James Pearson. Go see my bro Big John, Jonathan Jones as well if you're in the Hill Country area, man. I train it. I believe in it. I advocate it. Always good to see you on board, Brother James. And pass along my well wishes to the salsa queen herself. Tell Nelda I'm looking forward to it. One of the original OG Center sisters, Emily. Hello, Emmy. Good to see you. Hope the old man is healing up. And again, I'm judging my anxiety level going into my impending, hopefully, hip replacement surgery by how he's healing up. So keep me posted. Keep me posted. What do we got? Brother Ryan, of course. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Like and share your scallywags. I love it, man. Fluently, scallywags. I love it. Cool, man. Tally ho, flu and flame. Brother G-Dub on board. 45,000 Russian soldiers. More like 1,500. I'm going to go a little higher than 1,500 only because we drug it out for a couple of months, man. But yeah, like the 45,000 thing. Jesus, bro. Who is doing your PR, man? Who's in charge of the propaganda? Brother Tommy checking in. Greg Davis. You know, I was just over in Portland. Fires in protests in Portland right now. I was just over there. I left early this morning. Give me an update to my inbox and let me know. Because if any place up here is going to be on fire, obviously it's going to be PDX. Brother Dennis, cool. And let me see. We got Carrie, which means that Roman is on board somewhere. My good friends from opiumtales.com. Run it on out, man. What do we got? That's cool. Yes. Thorny. Yes. My turgid, thorny member. Yes. That actually goes back to a comedy bit that I had about what it's like defecating when you're dealing with opiate constipation. And the actual line was, it's like being ass raped by Satan's own turgid, thorny member. So yeah, there's your adjective. Enjoy that. I can't paint a picture, man. I can't paint a picture. We're gonna go ahead and fade this bumper music down and jump off into it. I haven't got a whole lot of bullet points to cover this week. You know, you guys may get off a little light and not hear me rant and rave for 2 hours. That wasn't by design. It's just, you know, the stuff that I want to cover, you know, it's pretty cut and dried, man. It's pretty concise. That and the fact, too, man, that a lot of this stuff has already been beaten to death by the fucking mainstream media, you know, for good or for ill. You know, it's almost embarrassing. The amount of just sheer bullshit that passes for journalism these days. And, you know, that's one of the directives is about being the signal, not the noise. And I don't want to run the risk of just adding to the fucking noise right now because there's just so much of it. And, you know, I'm going to try to avoid that. I'm going to try to keep it as pure signal as possible. You know, no promises because, again, you know, it's all opinion. You know, I'm not a guru. I'm not an authority. Sometimes, depending on what we're talking about, I could be a subject matter expert. But at the end of the day, I'm just a crane operator with some fucking opinions. And you guys keep coming back for more, and I certainly appreciate it. A couple of sponsor shout-outs. Let's get those out of the way real quick, and then we'll jump off into this thing. First of all, of course, Brother Roman from opiumtales.com and his lovely wife, Carrie, and, of course, Roxy and Allie and the bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. Beyond being a flagship sponsor, he's one of my oldest and dearest friends. We go all the way back to the fucking 80s. Yeah, some of you guys weren't even born when me and Roman started kicking it. So, but anyway, he does some phenomenal watercolor work. He is a hell of a gifted guitarist as well. You know, right now he's in this thing where he doesn't want his face out there, but hopefully he'll throw some guitar work out there. Some of his instrumental pieces or something, give you guys a taste of it because he's a really talented guy. In fact, that's one of the first things that we bonded over back in the day because once upon a time, I used to play a fairly mean fucking guitar. Fucking Roman will vouch for that. I was that little metalhead kid that wanted to be James Hetfield when he grew up. And then, of course, came the nerve damage. And now I'm pretty much dead from like here down. I have no tactile feedback, so everything's got to be visual. And even fretting a fucking D chord is like nigh on impossible. But yeah, Roman still plays, and he still plays very fucking well. Anyway, you have beautiful women painted up in beautiful watercolors. You have testosterone-driven commentary. There's a lot to like over there at opiumtales.com. Go check them out. And, of course, my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest, period. End of statement, fucking done. They are back in full effect. They're bringing the Viking Longship out there, the big fucking smoker trailer. They're setting up an American Gun and Pawn every Thursday, and they start at 11 and they sell until they fucking run out. And they always run out, and they always run out quickly, no matter how much extra product they throw on board. I think their prices are going to jump a little bit, which is commensurate with the fucking market, because unlike Biden's energy policy, you can't just tell people that actually do run a fucking business, hey, just lower the prices and do it now, because that's not how businesses work. So pay the extra money. Please take care of the fucking local people that take care of you and take care of this program. G-Dub, I just got paid 3 times normal rate to run a chemical load from Texas to Greensboro because there are issues with the rail lines and refineries on the East, and the East Coast can't get bulk supplies. Wow. Okay. That's certainly fucking entertaining. Hello, Mr. David. Good to see you on board. Yeah, G-Dub, I would be lying if I said to anybody, don't expect to see a lot more of that. Beyond, and again, it would be one thing if it were just the incompetence, but it's hard to tell now where the incompetence ends and the malicious intent begins. And the two are not mutually exclusive. Again, this all started with policies from a person. And again, when you hear me say Biden, I want you to just take, unless I specify, no, this time I'm really fucking talking specifically about Joe Biden. At any other time, take for granted that what I mean is Joe Biden's handlers, whoever is really running the show, because we all know the man is an adult fucking cadaver. He doesn't know what planet he's on, what day of the week it is. We all know this. The entire fucking world is aware of it, and nobody's admitting it. It's like the emperor's new clothes. Everybody knows that the emperor is naked, in this case not naked, but just completely fucking insane, just batshit fucking dementia-addled, and has no fucking idea what's going on, but nobody wants to say anything. And the ones that do say it, are immediately put down by the mainstream media propaganda ministry. Oh no, man, he's 100% on it. I mean, that's why we had to give him a flashcard saying, you sit in your seat, wait for this person to finish, then you stand and go to your dude. Read that card, man. Go back and fuck. Let me I'll post it up again just for a second. I'm not gonna beat it to death, but you can find this thing online. He turned his card around. Now, usually we have like the pre-approved questions from the pre-approved reporters, and he keeps saying the quiet part out loud. They're telling me I'm not supposed to answer this. They're telling me I'm not supposed to take questions. You're the president of the United fucking States. Who is telling you not to take questions for fuck all nothing? What? But again, when it's that fucking blatant, that card got turned around, somebody got a picture of it, and the internet is alive with it. And I'm sure the fact checkers are going to be out there going, well, context, blah, 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 blah. The guys over at Politifarce and the rest of them, they're going to do their thing to run interference, but everybody knows. And heading into these midterms, they're in a fucking panic. They are in a total fucking panic. And we're going to get into all of that. First things first. However, the first thing that I'm going to jump into right here, and we all know what's coming. That's right, boys and girls. It is time for the ever popular segment, Ryan's Rabbit Hole. That's right. Brother Ryan, I'm glad you made it out, man. Brian is down there with Mara and Chase, and they're having a good time over at the water park, which is again Texas Hill Country. They're doing Schlitterbahn. They hit that. I haven't been to, good Lord, man. I haven't been to Schlitterbahn. Oh Christ, man. I don't think I've been to Schlitterbahn since 93, maybe 92, 93, maybe. It's been a long fucking time. But yeah, and that Texas heat, fuck, man. And by the way, I appreciate the reminders, a little perspective check when I see you guys at Schlitterbahn. We've had two 90 plus degree days in a row up here in the Northwest, which for here is like a lethal fucking heat wave. But I see you guys down in Texas, and I have to check myself. I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay. But the never been to Schlitterbahn. Okay. One more time for GW just to fill in. Acrylic acid uses silicone to make the absorbent in baby diapers and women's pads, both of which they already say expect shortages. Yeah, man, it's going to get worse. Let me jump into the rabbit hole, though, real quick. I want you to look into my eyes. You are getting sleepy. 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 Keep your focus. Keep your focus. You will find yourself transfixed, perhaps mesmerized. That's right, boys and girls. This week we are going personal with our historical minutia and obscure esoterica with Franz Anton Mesmer. You guys are familiar with the term mesmerized. Franz Anton Mesmer was he was a German. I hesitate to call him a psychologist because that wasn't really like a recognized thing in the 1700s, but he did some things that would influence psychologists later on and was basically the father of what would come to be known as hypnotism. I say German. He actually hailed from Austria, and we could get into the historical back and forth as to, but Austria and Bavaria, and they were all under the protective umbrella of, at this point in history, and the Austro-Hungarian, yeah, go fuck yourself, all right? We're just going to call him Austrian right now, and you guys can take it and run with it. But he did a lot more. He did a lot more than just develop what would come to be known as hypnotism. He gravitated to the theory of what was called animal magnetism, which is basically, in a roundabout way, saying that there is a certain flow. I hesitate to tie it directly into the Chinese and their theory of qi, or that energy flow, but essentially it's along the same lines. He was just thinking of it in terms of a fluid inside the body as opposed to just an intangible flow of energy. He did a lot of stuff of having people swallow iron laden beverages, and then fucked around with magnets to adjust the flow of this. And again, he incorporated other elements, including the use of music and relaxation and meditative techniques to enhance the efficacy of his treatments. And this is where we get off into the hypnotism thing. Now, if you want to go a little bit further, I'm going to give you a side rabbit hole. Maximilian Hell, and spelled exactly as you would expect it to be. Maxim with an I, Maximilian Hell, who was a Jesuit and closely tied in with Mr. Mesmer. And eventually the royal courts outside of even, Austria, Austria and all of that particular region of Europe, their reach with the theories and the things that they were playing around about actually had a profound impact on a number of royal courts. In fact, I don't think that, and some people might take issue with this, but I don't think it's unfair to make the comparison, the same influence that Rasputin had on the czars. You have a figure who is dark and mysterious, obviously not as dark and mysterious as fucking Rasputin, because fuck. But again, he's dealing with esoteric elements. He's dealing with things that are almost occultish. He's dealing with the mysteries. He's dealing with things that people do not understand and that a lot of royal courts were not able to contemplate. And as such, he was heavily sought out for that influence and eventually took on an undue influence. Now we can take that and expand it to the thoughts of mesmerized as it's generally understood. But yeah, he had a number of royal courts in Europe completely mesmerized, and as such was able to find patrons among many of the royal courts of Europe. A lot of people were feeding money and giving him influence that didn't want to talk about that because, much like Rasputin and the Tsar, they did not want to be thought of as giving that undue influence to someone just because they possess the dark secrets. So worth looking into. Take both of those rabbit holes and follow them as far as you are comfortable in going. Franz Anton Mesmer. And as a sidebar, Maximilian Hell. You're going to find more than enough resources. Take that, follow it down as far as you are comfortable. And one potential search, let me see. You can search just mesmerism if you want to enter that as a search term, but mesmerism influence on European, and just leave it at that. Mesmerism influence on European, and you can go with European culture, European courts, European royalty, whatever, and follow that one down. So Franz Anton Mesmer, going to be Ryan's rabbit hole for the week. Take it and run with it. You will find it deeply fucking fascinating. And going forward over the next couple of weeks, we will be tying that in. We'll be tying the end result of his work into some other rabbit holes that we've got chambered and locked and loaded for the next couple of weeks going forward that I think you guys are going to find fascinating. Yep. See, already see, and I knew Roman was going to take it that way. I just left it out there. He was buds with Haydn and Mozart. Yes. And again, there's that influence, there's a thing that we describe, monster and magical sticks. There's no such thing as hypnotism. Read this book. Absolutely. But yeah, with him being buds with Haydn and Mozart, like Roman is talking about, there is a thing that we understand now as cultural capital. And cultural capital is, in modern society, you are an influencer. Say you have a big following on social media, you have maybe a hit show on television, you have a certain amount of cultural capital to where your opinion and your input has an effect and a reach completely inordinate to your actual degree of importance. Well, back then, the contacts, right, the way you had the reach, you had no media as it is understood today. I mean, you had the printing press, and that was fucking it. But being royalty or being tied with the church carried a certain amount of cultural capital. And when he's in there, when he's in there exercising that cultural capital, people are going to love him. People are going to want to be part of the scene that he has going on. But at the same time, people are going to resent that as well, because who the fuck is this guy to have that kind of power and influence? Again, it's a very tangential connection comparing him to Rasputin and the Tsar in Russia, but we may not be in the same ballpark there, but we're certainly in the same sport. Someone who is dark and mysterious and secretive that has an inordinate amount of cultural capital and an inordinate amount of stroke on the people who really are running the show. Definitely worth looking into. I hope you guys follow that down, and I hope you guys dig it. So anyway, thanks again to Brother Ryan for sending us down another little trip into the esoteric and obscure. And I hope you guys are having a blast at Schlitterbahn. And give my love to everybody. You already know. All right, cool. So let me get a little swill of liquid enthusiasm here, and we'll fire this thing up. So, first thing out of the starting gate was the Supreme Court's gun decision coming down the same week as the new directives on gun control. First of all, let's talk about that for a minute. I predicted that none of the big things would pass, and I predicted incorrectly, in part because I thought no fucking way will they get 10 Republicans to commit political suicide like that by signing on to this fucking thing, especially not when we are already positioned so fucking well. Conservatives are already positioned so fucking well heading into the midterms that they're going to crush no matter what. They have no fucking reason whatsoever. There is no political or social or cultural imperative for them to give up a fucking inch. If anything, they should have stood up, fucking thumped their chest and went, nah, we're not going to do it. Fuck you. Because who are you virtue signaling to, right? The people that know. The people with two brain cells to rub together that actually understand the width and breadth of the real statistics on gun violence and what a minuscule part so-called assault weapons fucking play in that. They already know. So you're not signaling to them. Who are you signaling to? The Democrats? They hate you. They hate you. They want you incarcerated or fucking dead. So where is the imperative? And again, the faces of the people that signed on to this. Some of them you expect, like, Mitch McConnell, fuck it, he's, establishment shill. Lindsey Graham, establishment shill. John fucking Cornyn, dude, A, Republican, B, fucking Texas. Unreal. Unfucking real. But again, there's a lot that could be said about the true motivations for this. Trying to find compromise. You know my position on compromise with the left. It is a one-way street. It always has been. Nothing has changed about that. Nothing ever will. So again, I just can't see any fucking imperative. But sure enough, I was wrong. Mea culpa, I was incorrect in that assessment. I did not think that they would find a single Republican, let alone 10, who was willing to commit utter political suicide like that, who basically just threw, waving their dick in the wind going, chop this motherfucker off. I never want to be elected to office again. Maybe Graham and McConnell think that they're that firmly entrenched. Maybe Cornyn felt the same way. I don't think he feels that way at the end of this fucking week. He got booed at a Republican convention down in Texas. And, I'm there about protecting the Second Amendment, and all the other ones that signed on said, well, yeah, but the red flag laws, my state's not going to do that. Well, then why give them the power in the first fucking place? Because, like it or not, Sparky, there are a lot of us who live in states that are controlled by these fucking leftist lunatics. And I promise you, the voluntary acceptance of these federal grants for the red flag laws, that is one of the things that passed. Let's go over very, very briefly what it came down to. They're talking about increasing. They didn't even get the age increase, as I understand it, as I read it. They didn't even get the age increase from 18 to 21. It's just if you are between 18 and 21, there is a more thorough background check if you want to acquire certain classes of weapons. This is referred to as a mental health initiative, which always makes me bristle because keep in mind, in the old Soviet Union, they didn't say that you were an enemy of the state, right? I mean, unless Stalin had a real fucking hard-on for you, and then you were an enemy of the state, and it was public trial and execution. But if you were just a run-of-the-mill guy, who had whatever problem with the Politburo's policies, you weren't an enemy of the state. No. You were mentally ill and in need of re-education. This is right out of the Soviet fucking playbook. And now, basically, with these red flag laws, and this is the thing, red flag laws were part of the bill. They didn't mandate, they didn't have a national red flag law because almost a year ago, almost to the day, the Supreme Court basically said that a federal red flag law was unconstitutional. So they knew they couldn't get that passed. They had a voluntary thing for the states, which is to say there's this much money that's going to be allocated, and any state that wants to implement their own red flag laws, they're going to be able to do this, and the federal government will contribute to this. Now, whether or not that's going to hold up in the Supreme Court with regard to decisions being left to the states, well, that remains to be seen in the wake of this Roe v. Wade being overturned, because that's all going back to the states. It's going to be really difficult for them to justify how we're going to say that the states are making the decision on abortion, but the red flag laws, that's not up to the states. That can only be done on a federal level, and then tell the feds that they don't have the right to do it. There's a lot of intellectual gymnastics going on right now. And, break out the yoga mats, guys. It's going to get interesting. But the big stuff they didn't get passed. Washington State just enacted on their own accord. This had nothing to do with the shooting in Uvalde or any of the stuff that Biden and the regime were trying to push. But the Governor Inslee in Washington, they just implemented a high-capacity magazine ban. Now, of course, people who had magazines before the ban went into effect, it's going to be grandfathered. But how are you going to fucking prove that? How are you going to prove that? Again, once they're gone, they're gone. If you have a specific number of high-capacity magazines, say a 15-round magazine for a fucking Glock 19. Oh, wait, that's standard capacity. Again, intellectual gymnastics and fucking the semantic Olympics. We're not going to get into all that. But a cop pulls you over. He confiscates the mags. You've got to go to court to get them back. And, lo and behold, they were produced prior to that. But we've got them now, and we can't give them back to you because it's a fucking ban. Compromise is a one-way fucking street. I don't know what it's going to take to make people understand that. It wouldn't have mattered in the state of Washington, because west of the Cascades, same as it is here in Oregon right now, you're essentially looking at two states. You're looking at one state east of the Cascades, and you're looking at another state west of the Cascades, and that's true for Washington and Oregon. Unfortunately, west of the Cascades, they have the numbers. They have been completely Californicated. All of the fucking transplants have moved in. They have the numbers, and they fucking dictate it. And in the state of Washington, it's all mail-in balloting. I mean, straight away, not since COVID. I mean, like, as long as I have lived there, it has been mail-in balloting. And I have no physical evidence that would indicate that there's any malfeasance with that system. But how the fuck would I know? How the fuck would I know? Because west of the Cascades, Seattle, they have the fucking numbers. So what those leftist idiots want passed essentially is what gets passed. And you wouldn't know if there was any fucking malfeasance with the system. Oregon doesn't have the mail-in system, but it's very fucking similar. You would never know if there was any malfeasance with the system, because the leftist idiots west of the Cascades, they have the numbers, and they are going to vote that leftist wing 100% of the fucking time. It's difficult to fucking overcome. As a result of that, you have, at least here in Oregon, and they're starting to make some noise up in Washington now, the Greater Idaho Initiative, where a number of counties in central and eastern Oregon want to break away from the state of Oregon and join Idaho. And I think that would be fucking fantastic. I would love to see that myself, and just fucking shave off the entire goddamn West Coast and leave them to their own fucking leftist devices. In any case, that's what came down with regards to the gun control bill that passed Congress. None of the big stuff. There were no bans on high-cap magazines. There were no bans on classes of weapons, like assault weapons. None of that stuff was going to get. And honestly, I almost wish that they would have pushed for that, because if they would have pushed for that, I can almost guarantee that none of those Republicans that jumped on board for their little virtue signal would have been willing to fall on that kind of fucking sword. I could be entirely wrong on that. Maybe the shills are just too fucking far gone. I don't know. 5-1 by the doors, new liberal cry. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty fucking much. In any case, that was what passed Congress this week. Now, at the same time, what you had going on in the Supreme Court was the Supreme Court sticking with the original intent of the fucking founders, basically undid a law. And like so many things, I mean, it cracks me up how the tyranny of everybody knows. See, everybody knows that Republicans, conservatives, GOP people, and particularly gun nut conservatives who are members of the NRA, you see, everybody knows that they're racist. Let's go back to the roots of that New York law, dating all the way back to around 1911, if memory serves. And the whole thing was orchestrated to make it impossible for people of color or specific immigrant groups to put their hands to fucking weapons. That's the origins of that law. Brother Mike, you're cool, man. You're cool. And you can always catch the replay, man. Just go over, if you want to catch it from the beginning, man, just go over when it's over with, because the replay's on Rumble, man. Go over and give Bongino some love, which, by the way, man, just a real quick thumbs up and shout out to Dan Bongino. If you guys aren't familiar with his work, I don't think his commentary and his programs, his podcast, all that stuff, I mean, it's all good. You know, Dan Bongino has a very solid thing going on with his podcast, with the show that he has on Fox, with all this stuff that he's doing. But I don't think that's nearly as important as the business end of what he is trying to do, particularly with Rumble. You notice that Tim Pool has all of their stuff geared on the Rumble architecture now. They have taken it away to where, they're basically, they've set it up. Bongino has set something up to where he's going to have a platform where you're not going to be able to cancel. He learned the lesson when, because Parler had all their stuff with Amazon. Amazon fucking shut him down. Bongino took a lesson from that. And beyond what he's doing with Rumble and with locals, he is specifically trying to create that parallel economy that you've heard me talk about endlessly on here for the longest time, that is going to be necessary going forward. He's doing some really great things. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like listening to the guy. I like his podcast. I like his programs. But the importance of what he's doing on the business end, building that structure to where people will have an alternative. They will have an alternative economically. They will have an alternative as platforms for social media, all of these things. That is 10 times as important in the long run as what he's doing as a commentator. So anyway, I say all that to say this, Mike, you missed the first part of the program. Go over and check out the replay on Rumble, because we are on Rumble now and BitChute, the replay. We're not live streaming on Rumble yet. That's coming soon. And I can't wait to get over there, honestly, because you vote now with your dollar. You vote with your dollar and you vote with your actions. It's infinitely more important, because actual votes only carry so much fucking weight. Now, I'm not going to go totally blackpill on everybody. Well, we might as well not vote because voting doesn't mean anything. For people that think that voting doesn't mean anything, and we'll come back to Roe v. Wade later, but specifically with regard to Roe v. Wade, okay? If you think that your vote doesn't mean anything, okay, because what happened in 2020, I want you to think back a little bit further to what happened in 2016. We put that orange motherfucker in the White House. And what was he able to do? He was able, beyond the hundreds of federal judges that he got put into place, and that will be the single most consequential thing that any president in our adult life has done or is going to do. You have to give that to Donald Trump, no matter which team you're on. I don't deify the man. That's why I'm very specific in my choice of words. I didn't say he was the greatest president or the most effective or any of those things. I said he is the most consequential. He is the most consequential. And when you look at what's shaking out in the judiciary, you see that getting back to the original tangent that I went on here, if you think that voting doesn't mean anything, okay, yes, they were able to create some irregularities in 2020, but in 2016, what were we told going in? That Trump didn't have a chance, that Hillary was going to be the president, and apparently millions of us didn't get the fucking memo, and they put Trump in. And what did he do while he was in office? He installed he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. And those 3 Supreme Court justices wound up making the difference to overturn what comes down to 50 plus years of judicial malfeasance and Supreme Court overreach. So don't think that voting doesn't mean anything anymore. It certainly does. Even on the local level, okay? If you don't put your confidence in the state or the federal level, voting on local level, who is on your school board? Who is in charge of the curriculum that's getting taught to your kids, right? Who is in charge of making sure that they understand basic civics instead of having drag queen story hour? Yes, voting still means something. Having said that, what is more important is to vote with your dollar and vote with your actions, which is why I don't mind throwing money at Shapiro and those guys over at the Daily Wire. Ben Shapiro irritates the piss out of me. I want to smack that fucking yarmulke right off his head as often as I want to pat him on the back and go, yeah, you thought that one out very well. He can be just as much of a neocon shill as anybody else, but I dig Clavin, I dig Knowles, I dig what Boring has got going on over there, because again, it's creating that parallel structure, that parallel culture, that parallel economy. So I don't mind throwing them a certain amount of money every month to make sure that happens. Bongino, what he's doing with locals, what he's doing with Rumble, I don't mind kicking down the money to be a part of that community, to make it happen. Try to build a base over there on Rumble, because ultimately, whatever you're looking at me here on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, fucking YouTube, any of the live stuff that we're doing right now, it is going to go the way of the dinosaur. Sooner or later, they are going to shut that down. Maybe not Twitter now that Elon's buying the motherfucker, but you get the idea. Vote with your dollar. Vote with your actions. Support the people who are down with, and again, we don't have room for moral puritanism, right? I understand that there's going to be certain classes of products that you're just not going to be able to get around. The tentacular reach of leftists in corporate, tentacular, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. The tentacular reach that leftism and wokeism has in corporate production now, it's hard to get around. There's going to be times that you can't get around it, but whenever you can, do, right? Because ultimately that's what's going to control things going forward. And if that means further polarization, and if that means a balkanization of the United States in the long run, well, so fucking be it. I would prefer that it not roll like that, but that is the way of history, isn't it? And if the alternative to a balkanization of the United States is staying united as one happy union under the tyranny of a corporate oligarchy, or wokeism as a religion, if that's the alternative, I'll take balkanization. Break them up, split them up. Peaceful divorce, or we do it the hard way. I don't care. Because ultimately what's guiding me here is the principle. And the principle is individual freedom, individual responsibility, period, full fucking stop. Okay. So that was my little trip down Tangent Street. Here's what the Supreme Court did, getting back to the original. Here's what the Supreme Court did. This racist fucking gun control law that had its roots in racist policies dating all the way back to 1911. They took a good look at it and they said, no. Yes, you can put restrictions, and that's been established even in the Heller decision. I'm a big fan of the court. I'm a big fan of the judicial process. I'm a little bit of a fucking court nerd. That, and I've got a fucking permanent hard on for Amy Coney Barrett, but we'll talk about that another time. Or not. They took a look at the roots of this. And yes, the DC versus Heller decision did leave open that there could be restrictions placed, but place a very strict limit on the types of restrictions that could be put in place. And what the Supreme Court found, now that we have those three justices, again, elections have consequences. Those three justices, boom, they are on the court, and that puts a solid conservative majority. Now, when I say conservative, if they went so far the other direction, and I think you guys know me on principle well enough to know that they started doing the Jesus junkie bullshit and started telling me who and how I could fuck and who and how I could read or what I could read or what I'm allowed to say, that I would fight that just as hard as I'm doing the existential threat from the left right now. I have proven that time and time again in my young adult years, the evangelical Christians in the 80s and all the other stuff in my young adult years coming up, to a lesser degree with Bush, Sr., but particularly George W. Bush, and the 8 years that I spent raging against the excesses of that. For me, I am going to be opposed to whoever the existential threat is to individual liberty and individual responsibility. I am principled anti-authoritarian, right? I'm just like anyone else. I have my biases. I do have my moments where my Ron Paul gives way to my fucking Charles Bronson, right? When leftist maggots are running the streets and setting shit on fire, I do have those moments where I'm like, well, due process, fuck due process, get in and split some fucking heads. I mean, look, dude, we're all human, right? And I own that. But right now, the existential threat to individual liberty and individual responsibility, the principles for which I am motivated, that existential threat is coming from one side and one side only. Now, if these conservative justices continue what they're doing now, which is original intent, right? Strict constitutionalists based on original intent. And there is nothing that I've seen come out of this court yet that makes me bristle with regard to that. They're taking it, they're looking at it metered. And that's the thing with people on the left this week are screaming judicial activism, which again, coming down to principle, well, on a basis of principle, you don't have a problem with judicial activism. You just have a problem when it's not working out for you. See, I actually have a problem with judicial activism on principle. If suddenly this same group of people, including my sweet Amy, if the same group of people they get away from original intent and get into constitutional overreach, well, guess what? You're going to tune in one Sunday and I'm going to be railing and calling for their fucking heads like I did for the Bush junta for fucking 8 goddamn years. All right. There's a thing called principle. And I have, it's rare. It's rare these days, but I try to stay guided by it. I fail time to time. I'm only human. Again, not a guru. I'm not an authority. I'm just a fucking crane operator with some opinions. Getting back to it, they overturned that law. They overturned that gun law in New York that dated all the way back to the 1900s. And predictably came the histrionics from the gun grabber crowd, as always fucking happens. And we hear it every goddamn time one of these things. It's going to be the Wild West. Every road rage incident is going to be a bloodbath in the fucking streets. People are just going to be shooting each other willy-nilly. And they say this every goddamn time one of these laws come up. And it never fucking happens. It never happens. It's fine. I'm glad that, and here's the thing, while we're on gun control, speaking of fucking principle and speaking of fucking states' rights, on principle, I am opposed to universal or to national concealed carry. On principle, I'm absolutely opposed to that because, again, that is the same. And I'm going to catch 9 miles of shit for it. I can already hear a couple of y'all's jaws hitting the ground. Y'all, dude, what the fuck? I'm opposed to it because, again, as a matter of principle, federal government doesn't have the right to push that kind of thing. Now we can have the discussion about whether that is a direct thing on interstate commerce, like regulating driving between the states and stuff. That is a conversation that I'm willing to have. But anytime the federal government comes back and says, nope, this is the way it's going to be for all 50 states. If you don't dig it, go fuck yourself. I have a problem. I have a problem with that on principle. That doesn't mean that if it passes, I won't walk around fucking open carrying in downtown fucking Los Angeles just because I can. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't walk through fucking Chicago with a fucking 12 gauge slung over my shoulder just because I fucking can, if such a thing were to fucking pass. All right. Because again, I'm only human. But in principle, I think it's a federal overreach. Sorry, but there it is. Getting back to it, they overturned that law. They said it was too much. And they said that they have to make some sort of provision for people to be able to carry weapons. And that placing those undue restrictions on it was basically tantamount. It was basically tantamount to having to prove that you had a need to say a particular thing before being allowed to speak, right? Ponder that for a second. Apply that to any other constitutional right, particularly freedom of speech and freedom of religion, right? Oh, you want to go to church? Well, you're gonna have to demonstrate to the state that you have a legitimate religious need to go to church. This is something that came up during the COVID lockdowns. Remember when they told churchgoers that they couldn't gather, right? Again, therein lies the root for these authoritarians to do what they are hardwired to do. That's exactly how it fucking rolls, people. And we got to see it. Okay, well, we don't tax churches, so we can lock them down. But the marijuana dispensaries, the liquor stores, the titty bars, they were all open, right? Couldn't gather in fucking church, though. Now, granted, there was a purely economic interest for the states that were doing it. This time, authoritarianism, period, across the board, cannot fucking be trusted. Anyone who espouses it, anyone who makes allowances for it, can't be trusted across the fucking board. You're making excuses for fucking authoritarianism. You're off my fucking radar, Sparky. I break no fucking bread with you. None. Again, a lot of tangents this week. That's why I kept so few fucking bullet points up here, because every one of these bullet points that I'm going over right here lends itself to going off into these sidebars. Try to keep up, and I'll try to keep it narrowed down and focused, but you guys knew what the fuck you signed up for. If you're here and you're a fan or a friend, you knew what the fuck you signed up for, okay? So don't be, if you're waiting around for an apology, I hope you packed a fucking lunch. Anyway, they overruled the law. And now every state that has these same kind of restrictive laws, we're talking about Illinois, we're talking about California, Massachusetts, New Jersey, they're all having to take a look at it. What it came down to was the difference between may issue and shall issue. If you're not a gun guy, you might not understand. You have a number of states now, I believe it's 16 states in the country now, that have constitutional carry. Constitutional carry is exactly as it sounds, all right? Carry whatever, whenever, concealed, open, wear it around your dick. We don't care. Right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's what the Constitution says. Knock yourself out, holster up, don't holster up, long guns, handguns, we don't give a fuck. License, no, don't care. As long as you're not a prohibited person, convicted felon in the process of committing a violent crime, you're free to carry. A number of fucking, I believe 14 to 16, somebody fact check me on that real quick. I could do a Google search, but I'm trying to stay focused there. Those states are constitutional carry. Idaho, right now, constitutional carry. Dennis, can you do a search for me real quick and find out how many states are constitutional carry now? I would appreciate it. I will continue with the rant. The rest of the states come down to shall issue and may issue when it comes to permits to carry a concealed weapon in particular. Now, Washington, when I first arrived in 2013, at that point, Texas still did not have open carry. Yeah. Texas got a rep for being the Wild West. But when I got to Washington in 2013, I was blown away, pardon the pun, by the openness to gun owners up there. Now, maybe not the same in Seattle. Actually, no, even in Seattle. Miss Charlie and I went to see Sting and Peter Gabriel play a live show there in Seattle. And I did some homework before we went to the fucking venue. And in Washington, in the state of Washington, open carry is legal, period. 25, no shit. Wow. I didn't think we had that many. I thought it was like 14 to 16. Well, cool. That just kind of boosted my mood for the night. Thanks. But we went to see Sting and Peter Gabriel play in Seattle, and I did some homework on the venue. Now, Washington State open carry is legal for anyone. Concealed carry is only allowed with a permit in Washington. That's the way it's been since I got here in 2013. But the venue provides gun lockers. The venue provided gun lockers. Not only did the venue where Peter Gabriel and Sting were playing provide gun lockers for licensed concealed carry citizens in the state of Washington, but the courthouse in Spokane County. That's right, the Spokane County Courthouse. You go downtown to the courthouse in Spokane County. You present, you declare your weapon, you present your permit, they give you a key, you take your gun off your hip, you stick it in the gun locker, you lock it up, you go inside the courthouse, you handle your business, coming back out, you go back to the locker, get your fucking gun back, holster up, and hand the fucking key back to them. Now, if there is anywhere in Texas that does that, I am unaware of it. So yeah, I was pretty happy about that. And again, that's east of the Cascades, but even west of the Cascades in Seattle, when we went to see Sting and Peter Gabriel, the venue had gun lockers, and I walked right up to the front door with the gun open carry on my fucking hip, talked to the security guy at the front door, and I said, hey man, I'm going to need a gun locker for this. And they let us in. They walked me all the way around, did not ask me to remove the weapon or clear it, examine it, anything. Had the thing on my hip, walking through the fucking venue, all the way around to the security guard shack where they have the fucking gun lockers. I gave him the thing. He gave me a receipt. Boom. Gun goes in the locker. No harm, no foul. It's almost as if guns aren't inherently dangerous by themselves. Again, may issue, shall issue. Washington is a shall issue state. That means you apply for a concealed carry permit, you will get it, provided you are not a prohibited person, you're not a convicted felon, you don't have a domestic, any of these things that would prohibit you under federal law or otherwise under state law, shall issue. You apply for the permit, you will get the permit. I'll go you one better. State of Washington, at one point a couple of years ago, you guys remember me talking about this, my gun rights under federal law were taken away because of a technicality with Washington state law. And even though it was a technicality with Washington state law and that my federal gun rights under federal law were completely taken away, it did not take away my fucking concealed carry permit. Literally, I called the Washington State Department of Licensing and I was like, all right, well, it's saying that I'm a prohibited person now. So how does this affect my concealed carry? And they were like, oh, no, you still got your concealed carry. Oh, okay. So I can't pull this gun out of the pawn shop because that's a threat to public safety. But the gun, just like it, but a little bit smaller that I carry on my hip every day, I can carry that around, no harm, no foul. Yeah, pretty much. Again, it's so fucking complex. These people that want to talk about the simplicity, these simple solutions. Well, we just need to pass this law. Sit down, Sparky. Take your ass back to the kids' table. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Bring it back in and breathe and release. Okay, so that's shall issue. If I apply for the permit, I get it. Rest of the states are may issue. That's New York. That's California. That's Illinois. That's Jersey. That's yeah. So may issue, and that means that their permitting process requires you to demonstrate some need. Now, New York's and Illinois and California's are oppressive, to say the least. You have to demonstrate that you are friends with your local sheriff, and you guys have barbecues together on the weekends, and that you are carrying large sums of cash for whatever fucking reason, or that there have been open threat. Basically, you're either politically connected or exceedingly fucking wealthy if you have a permit. If you have a permit in California, if you have a permit in Illinois and New York, you are either exceedingly wealthy, a celebrity, or politically connected, or all three of the above. Otherwise, you don't get it. You don't fucking get it. And the Supreme Court this week said, nope, that's not going to work anymore, because you are denying people their legitimate birthright to fucking self-defense. Keep in mind, man, all these rights, the Constitution doesn't give us any fucking rights. Does it? Because our rights don't come from the government. We are born into those fucking rights. We are born with the fucking right. Now, and you could call it, God, our creator, our natural birthright and bloodline, whatever the fuck. We are born with that. We are born with the right to speak our minds. We are born with the innate right to defend ourselves. The only thing that the Constitution does is to codify that into law, put it on paper. That's it. And again, original intent, people are finally starting to come around, and we have some strict constitutionalists in the Supreme Court now that are sticking with the original intent of the founders. I've watched that get argued back and forth, fucking ad nauseum. It's fucking ridiculous, man. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Back and forth, back and forth. Well, they said militia. Look at the individual correspondences between the founders. Was it Patrick Henry or Thomas Paine who said the great object is that every man be armed? Doesn't get much simpler than that. But again, they'll do the well-regulated militia dance. In any case, Clarence Thomas and my sweet Amy and Gorsuch and the crew, they weren't buying it. They said enough. They fucking struck down the law. And I will come back to this in a minute, because this is indicative of where this all fucking leads up to. You've heard me say that there's a perpetual race for our species between enlightenment and catastrophe. And it may take catastrophe to lead us to fucking enlightenment. There is a race right now as part of the dance. And this is how the founders wanted it. You understand this? We don't teach basic civics anymore. You know who I miss? I miss Yvonne Setzer. Miss Yvonne Setzer. She was my civics teacher when I was in high school. I made that woman's life hell. Absolutely made that woman's life hell. Because I was a Reagan kid, and she was a lefty. She had marched with Dr. King. She had marched with Dr. King and Jesse Jackson back in the day. Majorly involved in the fucking civil rights. And I was the Reagan kid. Boy, Stewart, if I have to hear the words bleeding heart liberal out your mouth again, I swear I'm going to have a heart attack. I made that woman's life hell. And you know what? I failed all 4 quarters of civics because I didn't fuck around with any of the assignments. The day-to-day assignments, I didn't care fuck all nothing. But I made a 99 on my fucking midterm. And I made 101 with the extra credit questions on my final. Why? Because even though I wouldn't do the day-to-day assignments, I fucking learned. I learned more in that fucking class that has served me in my adult life than probably any other high school class that has fucking shaped me. We had to memorize every single one of the amendments to the Constitution, what they were about, what they represented, the fucking case history behind them. We had to understand the 3 branches of government and the checks and balances, and why, there was the House and the Senate and the separate houses in the legislative branch, and how they were checked by the executive branch, and how the executive branch and the legislative branch were checked by the judicial branch. We had to know all of that shit. All of it. Case histories on everything. That's why I'm a fucking Rolodex now. I'm Google with feet when it comes to that shit. I am the last motherfucker on earth you ever want to get into a debate with regard to constitutional law or the way that fucking government is set up. Just don't do it, right? Dude, just go ahead and punch me in the fucking face. Seriously. If it's going to be that kind of fuck, just go ahead and punch me in the face, because then at least you got a puncher's chance. Maybe you hit me on the night switch and I go to sleep. Maybe. But if you want to debate me, brother, I'm going to make it painful and fucking embarrassing. I promise you. Don't do it. Just fucking don't. In any case. Wow, right off on the right to Tangent Street. So we're back. They struck down the law, and we are seeing that more and more now. And what it is that race, particularly coming up into the midterms, about what the judiciary is doing. And the thing about it is, normally there's two parties in a race, at least. The judiciary doesn't care. See, the race is all on the part of the fucking Democrats because they know what's coming up in the fucking midterms. Part of that race could have fucking gotten played into by the overturning of Roe v. Wade. There are a lot of people on the conservative side that are wishing that did not happen because they're afraid it's going to galvanize the fucking base. I don't think that it will at all. I couldn't disagree more. I think that the pro-choice crowd has basically outed themselves as the fucking baby shredder crowd. They lost all fucking credibility. They lost all credibility about choice, right? When they started marching outside crisis pregnancy centers. Because if you're really about choice, if her choice is to have that baby, and there's a crisis pregnancy center staffed by good Christian people that want to fucking help her out, why is it even your fucking business? You mad, bro? She decided she wasn't gonna let her fucking offspring get sucked out through a tube, and you want to fuck. So what? I thought you were pro-choice. You're not pro-choice. You're not pro-choice. You're lying fucking shill. You're pro-fucking murder. That's it. And as we've been over before, I did a whole fucking sermon about a month ago on this very fucking thing when the Alito draft first got leaked. Abortion is murder. I'm okay with murder. Totally okay with murder. As long as you call it murder. You don't get to remove a potential viable life form from inside your body that is depending on you for its well-being and act like it's no different than pulling out a chunk of earwax. Sorry, Sparky, doesn't work that way. I'm not going to belabor that point. Getting back to it. I believe that crowd, they've lost the American people. They've lost the American people because, like with anything else with the left, they've gone too fucking far. Have you seen Myra Flores getting elected down in fucking Rio Grande Valley last week? Did you see that shit? Look at their approval ratings among Hispanics. That's the glorious irony of this whole thing. Because ethnic replacement, that's a real thing, people. You can call it conspiracy theory all you want, and they can put it off as it being a racist dog whistle, but who always talks about it? Maddow, Stelter, right? Well, white people better get used to it because the demographic trends say that we're all going to be, and then we go, wow, hey, we're losing our fucking. But then when we point it out, again, don't gaslight me. They're the ones that fucking bring it up. But here's the killer, right? Here's the killer. They have left that fucking border open for a very specific reason and let Hispanics pour over that fucking border thinking they could take for granted. But here's the thing that they forgot. Just like with the gay marriage thing in California. They fucking went out because they wanted to get out the vote for Barack Obama, right? And so they went into these Hispanic communities and fucking just a big drive on, want to get the minority vote. We want to get the minority vote. And the thing that they fucking forgot is that Hispanics culturally are primarily Catholic, deep fucking Catholic and conservative. And now that you've gone off the fucking deep end and you've got white fucking liberals and progressives demanding the right to kill a kid, to split a baby's skull while it's fucking crowning, and that's still legitimate reproductive health care. And you really thought All of these millions of Hispanics that they've allowed to pour across the border, thinking that they were going to displace the vote of fucking cisgendered white heterosexual males. Guess what? You lost them. You fucking lost them. And guess which side of the fence they fell on, Sparky? That's the beauty of this whole thing. That was their plan. And ultimately, they laid the seeds for their own fucking undoing. Evidence, Myra Flores, winning in the fucking Rio Grande Valley by a huge margin. And guess what? Coming up in the fucking midterms, you have 4 more. That's right, 4 more Hispanic Republican women in different districts across the United States. And you know what? They're all going to fucking take it. Bravo, Sparky. Bravo. I'm wondering how long it's going to take after this fucking midterm for the Democrats to figure out we need to shut the fucking border down because our plan ain't working out. Oh, history can be fucking hilarious and glorious. You have sown the seeds of your own undoing. In any case. Yeah, Hispanics are pro-life. Whoops. And yeah, people bragging about their abortions is what turned off Joe and Jane average fucking voter. Exactly. That is the problem. Since we were going to touch on this briefly, just to fucking go over it, the thing that scares the shit out of them about it going back to the states, right? And again, this was the proper call. I will say that absolutely and without equivocation, no matter what side of the abortion debate you were on. Even their patron saint, fucking Ruth Bader Ginsburg, said that Roe was bad fucking law, that it was destined to fucking get overturned. And now we've fucking seen it happen. So does that outlaw abortion? No. Roe v. Wade being overturned didn't outlaw abortion fucking anywhere. Nowhere. Now, the states, certain states, already had trigger laws in effect that if Roe got overturned, that it was a foregone conclusion. But what this does is it sends it back to the states. They're lamenting the closing of all these Planned Parenthood clinics. Planned Parenthood closing all their clinics in South Dakota. Wait a minute. Why? Because last I checked, what Planned Parenthood was telling us was that abortions were only 3% of the services that they provide. That they were seriously about women's reproductive health care. They weren't abortion mills. No. Abortion was only like 3% of their 3% of their stuff, which is why they needed all this fucking federal subsidies, because abortion was only 3% of their. Oh, okay. So abortion was only 3% of your total fucking intake, your total contribution. And now that 3% is gone, you've got to shut down. What happened to reproductive health care? What happened to concern for the fucking health of women? You see, this is a nuanced fucking issue, people. It's a lot. This oversimplification. You got half the people saying, well, now we're living in the Handmaid's Tale. And then you got another half of the people that think we're living in the Handmaid's Tale and think that's a good fucking thing. And both of you couldn't be more fucking wrong. But that's the nature of discussions now, isn't it? Nuance is fucking dead. And when a guy as extreme as me is talking and lamenting the death of fucking nuance, we're definitely through the looking glass here. We've definitely crossed the fucking Rubicon. At the end of the day, boom, they sent it back to the states. And that's why the Democrats are fucking terrified. But it is going back to the states. Just like the gun control thing is going back to the states. Just like so many of the near dictatorial judicial overreaches of the Supreme Court over the last 50 plus years. Because again, the left does not have a problem with judicial activism. They haven't had a problem with judicial activism in 40, 50, 60 fucking years. They haven't had a problem with judicial activism. Not one. Because it's benefited them. Now that we are getting back to people who are not, and you can interpret this decision as judicial activism, but again, unless you have read the entire decision and the fucking dissent, I don't hear a fucking word from you. Not one. Your opinion means fuck all nothing until you have read the entire decision and the dissent to understand what's literally going on in their heads. Until then, half of you are spewing sound bites from Tucker Carlson, and the other half are spewing sound bites from that Mad Owl guy, and I don't give a fuck about either one of you. Think for your fucking self. Read those goddamn drafts. Read the full fucking decision. Read the full fucking dissent. Understand what is going on in their heads. It's being portrayed as judicial activism. But if you look at the decision and the way that it's fucking worded, and the specificity is my college word. I got like 3 of those. The specificity involved, how Alito worded that it deals with this in particular, this and this alone. It is not to be extrapolated to cover this, or even touch with that, or even fuck with that over there. It is this. It is strict constitutionalism. It is original intent. You cannot say that for the past 50 years of judicial activism from the left. It cannot be said with any degree of intellectual honesty. So they don't have a problem with actual judicial activism. What they have a problem with is original intent and strict constitutionalism taking away their judicial activism. I haven't seen a projection problem so bad since I fucking tripped and fell into a broken fucking IMAX. These people, I'm not going to get into it. Because you already know. There's no need for me to rehash this shit. Again, we're sitting around the kitchen table having a fucking discussion. Everybody thirsty? All right, cool. So it keeps going back to the states. As intended. 2 very important amendments that people overlook. 9th. Go ahead, I'll wait for you to Google it. And the 10th. 10th was not specifically delegated to the fucking federal government or reserved to the states and to the people. But even number 9, and this is an important one, that just because a right isn't delegated in this fucking written document does not disparage it, doesn't mean that the right doesn't exist. They left the shit open. The founders were so fucking brilliant to have left it open that there's going to be stuff coming up that we can't even fucking anticipate. And whenever that comes up, here's a set of fucking guidelines. Don't fuck with individual liberty. Don't restrict people's individual liberty, and definitely stand for fucking individual responsibility, because it's the trade-off that comes with liberty. The founders were fucking brilliant. This dangerous, evil, racist, white slave owner, no doubt homophobe, whatever. Brilliant motherfuckers. Brilliant. And so here we are. We're buttoned up on it again, revisiting original intent, and the correct decision got handed down. But again, there's that race. Just like with gun control, the legislative branch is passing this desperate fucking provision, and it just so happens that the Supreme Court at the same time is handing this down, going, y'all might want to think about this, because this isn't going to fly either, because we're striking down this one. You see how this is working? USA Today, Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, eliminating constitutional right to abortion. See, right there in the very fucking framing, there was never a constitutional right to abortion. Nowhere in the Constitution or any amendment thereof delineated a right to an abortion. That is nowhere in the fucking Constitution. Anywhere. It was a bad judicial rendering based on faulty information. Pick it to death, do your own homework on it. The faithful are never going to be convinced, and they don't want to know. They don't want to know. My right to kill my baby, my body, my choice. Take your vaccine. They don't want to know. They don't want to look at the nuance. They don't want to look at the real fucking history. They don't want to look at the judicial overreach. They don't want to look at, the woman that we all know now is Jane Roe, recanting, going back on her shit and saying, no, I wasn't raped. Fucking none of this. None of this. It's all fucking out there. Do the goddamn homework. But again, we're past all that. Supreme Court did the right fucking thing, period. And so the faithful are doing the predictable thing, period. We're going to burn it all down. Stop having sex with men. Dude, have you seen some of these fucking huffamees? Huffamees, plural of huffamoose. Y'all know what a huffamoose is. So these huffamees. 3 or more is referred to as a sludge or an adiposity, depending on region. Anyway, nobody's fucking these women, so shut up. I shouldn't have. Yeah, that was intellectually weak. Intellectually, that was just lazy. But it is funny as fuck seeing the things that are, sofa bison. Wow. All right. Cool. All right, man. We'll roll with that. Yeah, dude. Intellectually, that was lazy on all of our parts. But I mean, it's sorry, but it's fucking true. At the end of the day, what should have happened happened. At the end of the day, on gun control, what should have happened happened. They're going to try this backdoor thing with the red flag laws. They couldn't get it passed on a federal level, so they're making it voluntary for the fucking states. It's not going to fucking stand. It's not. The tide has fucking turned, people. I've said this ever since the 2020 election. And everybody losing their fucking shit. What have I said? Have I wavered once? Telling people to keep their fucking chin up, that we're going to win. We're winning. John Cornyn, all the Republicans have voted for that fucking law. I mean, I can't, again, snatching defeat from the jaws of fucking victory. I'll never be able to understand that as long as I fucking live. And I don't care. Don't care. Because ultimately it won't be enough. Are they going to try to commit fraud in the midterms? Of course they are. Of fucking course they are. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because the margin for fraud is going to be overwhelmed by the margin of outrage. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go through and let's look at how they've lost control of the narrative. Just on something as tangible. Just on something as tangible as the 2 most important things to voters going into the midterms. Poll after poll. What are the 2 most important things? They don't even give a fuck about abortion. They certainly don't give a fuck about January the 6th. They tried that one. It failed. January 6th, insurrection. People's eyes just fucking glaze over. They don't care. They don't care. You're a very bad person for not being afraid. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how I can get some overtime so I can actually get a tank full of gas this week and feed my fucking kids. Now the abortion thing. It's wild to think. Ponder this for a minute. Just to establish where we are on some sort of historical timeline. Ponder this shit for a minute. People have waited around since 1973. All right? 1973. Ponder that shit. So through the Ford administration, the Carter administration, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, since 1973, you've had half of the fucking country dialed in to hanging on knowing that that was a judicial overreach, knowing it. They knew from day one. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said so. Knowing that it was an overreach, but clinging so desperately to it that it became an article of faith. For 50 years, man. Ponder that. That same fucking stretch of decades, you had the other half going, no. Babies are being killed in the womb. You don't have the right to end this fucking thing. We have got to rein this in. It's against the will of God, whatever their motivation was. For decades, this has been a central fucking focal point. And on Friday, that decision got yanked from the law books. Should have been enough to send both sides into a fucking tailspin. You want to know why the left isn't throwing Molotov cocktails at the Supreme Court building? Because they can't afford the fucking gas. Something this monumental, something this fucking historical, and yet shit is so fucked up on a level of basics that the country barely fucking noticed. Do you understand the significance of that going forward? You tracking? You feel me? Something that fucking monumental, and we barely was a blip on the fucking radar because people can't afford to fucking feed their families. And they have lost control of the fucking narrative. Just on those two most important things, inflation, fucking gas prices. What have we heard? Whose price hike is it? Come on. You guys know. What's the cue card? I don't need to hold up a cue card. Whose price hike is it? Putin's price hike. Putin's price hike. Putin's price hike. Putin's price hike. If you look hard enough, I'm sure you could find a fucking soundbite compilation of the fucking thing. Putin's price hike. Putin's price hike. Putin's price hike. Have a look. They've been trying to sell this ever since the goddamn Ukraine situation started, right? I mean, now that that's failing, they're coming back to greedy oil companies and price gouging this and gas station owners and blah, blah, blah. But they're still, the anchor is Putin's price hike, the war in Ukraine. Why did fucking Biden tell the gas station owners they need that you can't raise prices because it's a time of war, time of crisis, and mention Ukraine specifically. And they keep coming back to that. Pelosi this week, fucking barely keeping her dentures in, staggering around like the drunk fucking lout that she is. We're not to deal with the price hike because Vladimir Putin, Avon Lady of the Damned. Sorry. We have the highest inflation in 40 fucking years. We have gas prices that keep breaking records, and they keep trying to blame it on Ukraine. They keep trying to blame it on Putin. Biden this week tried to fucking call people's patriotism into question. Tried to call Republicans' patriotism into question. We're paying higher prices, but I suppose you guys would have been okay paying, lower prices and letting the iron hand of Putin descend over Europe. Stop with the false equivalencies, Grandpa. Next time you're going to bring up a fucking straw man, let me know so I can put out my fucking cigarette. Go fuck yourself. Nobody believes this. And sure enough, the Washington Post confirmed it. Evidence now suggests that the narrative is coming up well short. Domestic pricing concerns are far outpacing Ukraine on Americans' list of priorities, and Biden's poll numbers on his handling of the economy continue to hit new lows. Whatever stomach Americans had for higher prices to support the war in Ukraine, it doesn't appear particularly strong. And that would be assuming that these prices had fuck all to do with the war in Ukraine. And here's where they're losing control of the narrative. The Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, Wednesday of this week, broke, this is the New York Post now, broke with President Biden's repeated attempt to blame Russian President Vladimir Putin and his invasion of Ukraine for the highest inflation in 40 years. Powell confirmed last month to his second term as chairman he was in front of the Senate Banking Committee. Senator from Tennessee, Bill Hagerty, he basically hit him with a direct question. And I realize there's a number of factors that play a role in the historic inflation we're experiencing: supply chain disruptions, regulations, constrained supply. We've got rising expectation, excessive fiscal spending, but this problem hasn't sprung out of nowhere. And he put it directly to him. He's like, is this the fault of Vladimir Putin? And the direct question Hagerty asked him, given how inflation has escalated over the past 18 months, would you say that the war in Ukraine is the primary driver of inflation in America? The Fed chairman, one of the guys that's supposed to anchor this fucking cadaver, one of the handlers who's supposed to, his response, and I quote, "No, inflation was high before, certainly before the war in Ukraine broke out." Biden administration seems intent on deflecting blame, and just as recently as this past Sunday, spread the misinformation that Putin's invasion of Ukraine was the single biggest driver of inflation. And first of all, basic fucking economics. Let me do a little Biden moment. Basic economics. War doesn't drive inflation. Particularly one that we're not actually involved in officially, even though we keep finding, tens of billions of dollars to send to Zelensky. But this is where it comes down, people. They are losing control of the narrative. All of it. That's why, if anything, you guys should be happier. You guys should be happier about everything that is fucking going on right now. Every new thing that comes down the pike. Because something as monumental as Roe v. Wade being overturned barely registered. Barely registered. Why are they getting upset now? You've heard me say it before, and I fucking stand by it. You can strip away people's rights a little bit at a time. Incrementalism doesn't fucking matter. People roll over and play dead for it. They did it for 8 years under fucking Bush. Did it for 8 more years under Obama. Because mulatto Messiah, and therefore better than Bush somehow, even though the policies are exactly the fucking same. You can lay down a national fucking security surveillance state. Tell people outright. First, lie to them and say you're not spying on their shit. And then when Snowden outs your ass, go, yeah, we're spying on you, but it's for your own good. You can tell people that they can't leave their fucking homes, that they can't go to work, that they can't interact with people, that they can't go to church. How are they able to do that? Because the whole time, what were they doing? Extended unemployment benefits and stimulus checks. You get it to where they can't eat. Now we got a fucking problem. You get it to where they can't afford gas. You get it to where they can't afford gas enough to go on a long vacation, they'll bitch. You get it to where those fuel prices start hitting consumer prices. And that even when you can get to the market, you can't afford this shit because the truckers that had to bring it there, G-Dub, I know you know what I'm fucking talking about. G-Dub, what do you say? You got paid like 3 times regular rate to get that up there? Right. And that price is going to reflect that they're going to be paying on the far end of it. I mean, fortunately, it was just a petrochemical product. But imagine that when it's everything, food. And eventually it'll get to a point where the trucks just aren't running anymore. And then people don't have shit. You can push people so fucking far, but we're at that limit now. And nobody gives a fuck. So bristle, indeed. We should be fucking bristling. It's fucking rough right now, man. It is fucking rough. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm doing okay. I'm making, dude, I'm making crane money. So I'm in a better position than most motherfuckers right now. But I'm feeling it. Definitely fucking feeling it. That little trip across the pass, man. That little trip across the pass. I remember when I started, even just back in January when I started training with Morgan over in PDX. Just that little trip across the pass, man. You used to look forward to that fucking drive. It was a little spendy, but I used to look forward to the fucking drive because I got to train with Morg and I got to see the scenery on the drive, and it's fucking beautiful. I got to get out of town for a minute, expand my horizons, expand my combative skills. And now I get across that little Arco AM PM. It's my regular gas stop there in Sandy, Oregon. And I see that bill climbing. Again, I'm doing better than most, but I'm feeling it. The rest of you guys out there that aren't fucking independently wealthy, I know you're fucking feeling it. It's getting tight. But we're winning. We're fucking winning. And what's making it tight for everybody, exactly why we're fucking winning. That sliding scale, shifting the blame, it's not working anymore. It's not. We are anchored. Thank God for the judicial branch. Again, man, if you understand basic civics, you understand the three branches of government and why they're fucking laid out the way that they are. Executive executes the fucking law, enforces the fucking law. Legislative makes the law, writes the law, hands it to the executive branch for fucking enforcement, and the judicial branch is there strictly to fucking interpret the law. One of the famous cases, there was a runaway slave, right? That had to be returned to his owner. He said because he had been free in these fucking northern states that he gained his fucking freedom. They handed it back, and the Supreme Court justices, they looked at it and they went, look, dude, we don't like this, but according to the letter of the law, you're still a fucking slave. We would rather it was not that, but it is not our place to make the law or change the law. We are here to interpret the law. Now, we are far removed from that. We are far removed from that level of fucking objectivity. Either way it goes at this point, it will always be looked upon as judicial activism from the side that is on the ass fucking end of the equation. This week, it's the baby shredder crowd. But hell, before that, it was us, gun owners, on the receiving end of it. It was conservatives on the receiving end of it, and it would have continued that way. Ponder this for a minute. You've seen the actions of fucking Merrick Garland as Attorney General, right? Calling people domestic terrorists because they show up angry at a school board fucking meeting. That motherfucker was nearly a Supreme Court justice. This close. Ponder that shit. Why do you think Trump put the push on to get my sweet Amy? Why do you think he put the push on to get Amy Coney Barrett in there before his fucking term was over with? That he wasn't playing nice anymore. They didn't put the push for Obama, right? You said, no, we'll wait on the Merrick Garland thing. We'll wait until after the election because they were fucking cocksure that Queen Hillary was going to win that motherfucker. And guess what? Didn't happen. Elections have consequences. Orange motherfucker learned the lesson. He's not playing nice anymore. And so he put the push on. And they raged and they yelled and they screamed, but they couldn't stop it. And he got that third justice appointed. And that was the fucking difference. Do you understand what I'm saying? We are anchored in a judiciary now that is strict constitutionalist. And again, when they get to the level And it could well happen and probably will, because that is the nature of things. When they get to the level where they're handing down dictates based on a strictly fucking religious basis, that Handmaid's Tale, the real Handmaid's Tale shit, is not going to fly with the Reverend. You guys ought to know me fucking better than that. But right now we're dealing with a principled fucking argument. And that principle is fucking strict constitutionalism and original intent. They have had their way for so fucking long with their own judicial activism that being taken away from them makes it look like the polar extreme. Fuck them. Fuck them and everybody that looks like them. Court did the right thing. It goes back to who now? Goes back to the people. People are going to do what they're going to do. It goes back to the states and their individual representation, because the people in the states are going to do what the people in the states are going to fucking do, because that's how it was supposed to be. And I'm going to tell you something going forward. This could get ugly in some unexpected fucking ways. You could be looking at the impending balkanization of the United States. You could be looking at entire fucking regions saying, you know what, fuck this, we're out of here and breaking away. The preservation of the Union, you know, that thing that made Lincoln so fucking important, holding the fucking Union together. Fuck the Union. Because given the choice between hanging on to the Union for its own sake or following the will of the fucking people, guess what? I'm following the will of the people 100 times out of 100. Even when it doesn't benefit me. If those fucking leftist lunatics in California want to allow abortion up to the moment of birth, those fucking sick motherfuckers want to say that you can crack that kid's skull while it's fucking crowning, okay. That's between you and God, motherfucker. That's between you and God and the rest of your sick fucking ilk. But on principle, that's y'all. That's y'all. I got fuck all to do with that. Where I'm going to be is with the people that are still somewhat cognizant of some semblance of a moral fucking compass. You've heard me say it, and I still believe, I stand by it. Abortion should be allowed. Very specific circumstances, very limited fucking circumstances. And at the end of the day, purely on a libertarian principle, do what you want. It's your body. Who else do we know of that said, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law? Ryan's chuckling. Roman's chuckling. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Funny when you break it down like that, it takes on a whole different perspective, doesn't it? I am going to be with the people that have some semblance of a moral compass. Safe, legal, and rare. I'm not even down with that necessarily. I've got my own fucking views on it, my own fucking nuances or whatever. But I can tell you, you lost the fucking credibility with the people and you lost the will of the people when you said up to the moment of birth. And now it's going back to the people. And the people, I believe, even in a leftist enclave like California, I believe the people ultimately will vote for some sort of fucking restriction. If they do not, that is on them. Again, it's between them and God. Via con Dios, motherfucker. But it's coming back to that original intent. It is coming back to, we are a loose confederation of states, and those states are governed by the people, and the government draws their strength from the consent of the governed. Do you understand me? They're no longer telling us. They're finally remembering that consent of the governed means you don't tell me, you fucking ask me. And I submit to you that anyone on either side of the coin, that is bothered by that as a matter of principle, that is disturbed by the prospect of the government having to ask rather than tell, that person has already fucking outed themselves as an unprincipled authoritarian motherfucker. And I don't care which side of the coin you're on. I don't care. I don't care. Rolling forward, man, we can take heart in that. The legislative, that's going to be up to the will of the people going into these fucking midterms. I can make my predictions. The executive, going to have to wait a couple more years before we can make some big moves on that. Unless I won't get into the potential scenarios that could come as a result of a stampede in the fucking midterms. We might not have to wait a couple of years before we get that executive thing straightened out. But remember that the people who got us in this position in the first place, the little wannabe tyrants that need to be led, that need the government to tell them, not ask them. You guys have seen The Matrix. What do we know about the people that are in The Matrix? They are so locked in to that system that they will fight to protect it. They're not going to go down without a fucking fight. You are going to see some shit. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Because the guiding principle is this. The government resides right here. You, me. Was it Jefferson said? When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And that might not be 100% correct, but it'll do until correct gets here. Because in the meantime, between time, we have finally got into a position where our response is going to epitomize the words of John Dryden, beware the fury of a patient man. Our patience has run out. And I thank the gods for the strength and the courage of the judiciary being anchored in original intent, reminding us all that the government has to ask. They don't get to tell. And that's not going to shake out the way all of us want it. When it gets to California, I guarantee you places like California, enclaves like Illinois, New York, hell, man, even in Virginia, not so long ago, we had a governor that was talking about being able to kill the baby up to and past the moment of birth. That happened. I'm not being alarmist. You can find fringe examples on all sides of the fucking coin. You know, like talking about a baby having its skull split while it's crowning. You know, that would be a fringe example. You know, because late-term abortions, when I say late term, I mean from like the second trimester on up, account for roughly 10 to 17% of all abortions. So that's a fringe example. But don't tell me not to pull that out as a fringe example and then turn around and fucking anchor your entire emotional argument on what about the victims of rape or incest, which accounts for 1%. 1%. And you know what? I will make allowances for fucking rape and incest, life of the mother being threatened, severe fucking fetal abnormalities. But that's a discussion, see? That's me and you talking and coming to an agreement that isn't going to make either fucking one of us happy 100%. but something that we talk about and we can go to our elected representatives and say, this is the way it goes in our fucking state. Without having some fucking shining palace on high handing down dictates without any fucking moral, let alone legislative authority. To say this will be the law of the land, and if you don't like it, too fucking bad. Don't think for 1 second that I won't fight just as hard if it does take that polar fucking swing. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Dennis can tell you. Roman can tell you. Principle of anti-authoritarianism. Principle in practice. But for right now, what they are interpreting as authoritarianism isn't even throwing the lever to the other side of the fulcrum. It's just bringing it back to the fucking middle. It's been here for so fucking long that this feels like this. If we can keep it somewhere in here, slow and steady, and keep the discussion alive, keep reminding them that they don't come to us with their dictates and their mandates, that they come to us and they ask permission. How would you like us to play this? How would you like us to play that out? We are keeping that alive. Are you saying everything that I'm preaching for the past 2 days? Because secretly, Flew and Flame, I am stalking you. I am stalking you, and I'm stealing the thoughts from your head. We're keeping it alive, people. We're keeping it alive. We're getting back to original intent. We're getting back to the essence of a vibrant debate. Once upon a time, not so very long ago, it was a point of pride for Americans that we could vehemently fucking disagree about things and still be okay, still be friends, still be countrymen. I lament the passing of that. Sadly, that is gone. Sadly, that part is gone. Not because allowances can't be made for disagreements, but a disagreement based on subtleties and nuances is a hell of a lot different than being on polar opposite ends of a moral fucking equation. What do I think? I think we're finding a moral compass again. I think that those of us who haven't become straight up doe-eyed fucking ideologues are figuring out how to talk to each other again. I guarantee you, I see Christy on here, and I guarantee you that Christy and I probably differ on at least a couple of the nuances of the abortion debate. I guarantee you that we don't see 100% eye to eye on it. And that's okay. Because I can look Christy in her eye, and I can know Christy's heart, and I can say, hey, I feel you. Let's talk about this. Let's come to some kind of fucking middle ground. But at the end of the day, people, 2 things to remember. Number 1, don't ever get overwhelmed with the depression of seeing the places where we fail. Always stay focused on the places where we're winning. Always stay focused on the places that we fucking succeed. And always, at the end of the day, and I hate to fucking end it on a solemn and somber note, but always at the end of the day, remember that we only dictate the course of this thing, that we are only able to keep it within the realm of civil discourse as long as we maintain the right, the capacity, the ability, and the inclination to bring it to these if it comes to that. So as long as we keep this focused and this on the right path and these hardened up and ready to knuckle up, we got this. We're going to win this thing. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys fucking being here, man. Wow. A lot of stuff, whole lot of stuff, man. But I'm glad you guys did make it out. I'm always happy to see so many of you guys out here on a fucking Sunday. It's just been a good weekend all the way around. I'm hot. I'm fucking exhausted. I have been out of Texas so long, I forgot what a real fucking heat wave was. So, a couple of days in a row of fucking 90-degree plus temperatures, and I'm just fucking like, dude, what am I doing? Fucking just baking out here. Anyway, man. You guys showing up on a Sunday, every Sunday, Sunday after Sunday, reminding me that I'm not just that lone voice in the fucking wilderness, man. I mean, at the end of the day, as I've said before, man, I'm not a guru. I'm just a crane operator with some fucking opinions, but I'm trying to get the word out because that's how you live on after your death. I could be gone tomorrow. But maybe something I said to you this week or 2 weeks ago, maybe that sticks with you. And again, the greatest gift is that fucking knowledge because you can give knowledge and hold on to that knowledge for yourself. It's the greatest gift that anyone can give to anyone else. Guys, I'm going to pass that fucking digital collection plate around. I am on Cash App. I'm on Venmo. I'm on Facebook Pay. I'm on Zelle. I'm on all that good stuff. I'm going to fire up the clutch on the way out. As we always do, another contribution to the program. Suggestion courtesy one Ryan Adam Jenkins. Appreciate everything you've done for me, brother. I'm going to pass that digital collection plate around. If you guys want to throw me a little bit of coin, it's a labor of love, but every little bit helps, man, and I'll be all about that shit. If you can't, I get it. We're living in a fucking Biden economy, man, and there's no way around that. But in any case, man, here's what you can do for me, man. You can tell your friends about it. If you got your own social media, you got your own platforms, you got your own website, whatever, let them know, man. Hey, this fat, toothless, crippled motherfucker, crane operator with some opinions that gets on a ransom race for a couple hours every Sunday. Maybe you'll dig it. Tell them about the program. It'll be great. For all my OG Reverends Rangers, my prophets of doom, and my sinner sisters out there, here's what you can do, not just for me, but for yourselves, man. We already know the directives, man. We know the directives. Try to live by them. They will try to bury you with the noise. You got to be that signal, man. That signal-to-noise ratio right now is all fucked up. You got to continue to be the signal to break through that noise. They try to bury you in the darkness. All of that fear, all of that hate, it's just dehumanizing, demoralizing. You got to break through that shit. You got to be that light in a world full of darkness, and the iron rule, above and beyond anything else. You have got to be that strength. You've got to be that strength in a world full of weakness. That world's going to try to crush you with that weakness, and without the strength to persevere, none of this other shit matters. Everything else is just academic. So keep it strong, mentally, physically, spiritually. Ready to knuckle up if it comes to that. I love you guys. Appreciate you being here, man. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. We will see you next Sunday. Tell your friends about it. Bring them along. Always happy to see you guys along for the ride. Thanks. Next Sunday, people. We'll see you. Thanks for coming out. Love y'all, man. Thank you. All my heart. See you next week.